from an undisclosed location in the Great Western Desert in the land of the free and autonomous Native American people. The 2024 presidential campaign in it's time to return all US land back to their right's owners. This is the Ben Zion Podcast.
Techno-communism will win.
Welcome back to the Ben Zion program. I'm in beautiful Verde Park, just about 5 blocks away from downtown Phoenix, thereabouts, and also about 5 blocks away from where I live, which is about 10 blocks away from downtown Phoenix. And you might think I go to parks a lot, which is true. You might think that I'm trying to give you some kind of guided tour of the parks of Phoenix, which is not exactly true. But I do like parks. And so sometimes I go to parks and record this chat show, such as it is. And I'll tell you something not too many people necessarily realize. I am on the wagon, a recovering alcoholic. And there was a time when I lived in a park. And there's a couple of people that live in this park. I'm sort of friendly with some of them. They're people probably living a better life than I was at that time. Just people staying out of trouble. If anybody ever tells you, a terminally online person pretending to be a Marxist, tells you that because Karl Marx was given to drink, because some other writers and even some activists were sometimes given to drink, an intoxication that you should consider intoxication to be not a net negative on the revolution-minded of us, on the overall world, because everything that weakens the revolution-minded weakens the prospect of a humane and sustainable economic system. If anyone ever tells you, I've had this conversation on Twitter, being a terminally online opposer myself, half a dozen times, that intoxication is good for you. Well, they're saying a similar thing to what the ruling elites believe, that intoxication is a good thing for Marxists, because they love that working people, and particularly people of color, use controlled substances. It's why there's a church, which do not generally dispense controlled substances, but are nevertheless the opiate of the masses. It's why there's a church and a liquor store on literally every fucking street corner in every poor neighborhood in this country, because they want to weaken you body and mind. So if you meet somebody who tells you that being weakened body and mind is a good thing for you, I'm not so sure they're a real person. They might be full of shit. This is something that took me 35 odd years to learn, but there you have it. I'm not going to do a whole show on being weakened by the influence of the ruling elites. But I am going to do a whole show on a subject even more speculative than that, which is one of the most horrible brainworms in existence, and one of the most horrible institutions in existence. This is kind of one of those Freakonomics type shows, which I believe are more closely connected than most people believe. The brainworm in question is the problem of the belief in the one word that is very fascistic: overpopulation. I used to know a guy who was a fabled computer scientist, and a person who I don't know well, but I had a lot of conversations with him on the Messenger and so forth. He's a person who has a pretty deep understanding of computer science and has made some better than average contributions to certain subsets of that discipline. Not all the people who make contributions to that discipline actually have a real good understanding of the world around them. Most of them are capitalists or some kind of crypto-fascist. I'm not going to say that this person is a crypto-fascist because I haven't spoken to them in a few years, and I've since changed ideas that I um, um, now regard as crypto-fascist in that time. So perhaps he has too, he or she. It's a he. Although I won't continue with that ruse. Um, but this person was always one of these people going on about the problem of overpopulation. And at that time, I didn't. When I first met this person some years ago, I didn't see that as problematic as I do today. I'll admit. But this person was always saying that the world is overpopulated, and this person was not a Marxist. No Marxists really say this. And this person was also meat eater, always taking, doing this typical Instagram thing where they take pictures of their food and it's always meat. I'm not saying that this person was a food influencer, but they would take those kind of pictures sometimes. So these two things that I think are unconnected are precisely this. The ecocidal institutions, the businesses of factory farms and livestock systems throughout the West that are the number 2 cause of climate change after petrochemical concerns, and this overpopulation. And I believe that the cognitive dissonance of living in a world where 70 plus billion vertebrates, land animals, are killed every year, a huge environmental impact of those 70 million, and the seas are fished to an incalculable number. It might be a trillion fish are taken out of the sea a year. This environmental impact, the cognitive dissonance of doing this to our planet, knowing that it's killing the planet, is, I believe, this major source of this. Not just something that correlates to it, which it does. The Venn diagram between these two people, the people who say that they're that there's overpopulation, and the people who are some kind of capitalist-friendly person, fascist sympathizer, low-key fascist sympathizer, or crypto-fascist, and the people who eat meat. The Venn diagram is quite close, but I think that there's a bigger relationship there, because everybody knows now that this is the number 2 cause of climate change. Nobody wants to change their lifestyle, and so they don't say that we shouldn't be raising these 100 million creatures, 100 billion creatures, pardon me, just to kill them, torture and kill them every year. They don't say that, because that would require them to change. So they say that the world itself has too many humans. If humans did not engage in these fascist practices, we could hold many, many more humans still, is the main point. And I might look at one more article on the subject of plant-based products. I got in an argument with somebody today who said a vegan is somebody who is vegan for the animals, and a person who is vegan for these other reasons, health or ecological concerns, is an adherent to a plant-based diet, which I don't really actually care much between one or the other. But this person was placing a premium on the, and actually he has another comment that I haven't yet read. This person is placing a premium on the concern for individual animal welfare, and this pig could just easily be my dog, as opposed to the larger systems concerned, which is the real existential risk. And this is the very problem of anarchists versus communists generally. Why is an anarchist a piece of shit? Well, he doesn't believe in any institution, doesn't understand any institution. He's hyper-focused on his own individualism, and so is not ever going to be in a position to fix any institution. And this is why throughout the Western world, anarchist thought is propped up over revolutionary communist thought, which has the same end goal, to build a stateless society. But not a fucking idiot like anarchists. This is not something to do. Most vegans are pretty dumb. They're definitely they're no better than the people in the transhumanist party. Well, they might be a little better. They're a little bit better than the trans. There's a group. I've seen a Facebook group for vegan transhumanists, and I'm imagining they're probably mostly pretty much people who wish they lived in a fully realized socialist state, and probably half of them are people who would even support revolutionary action. But there you have it. Well, I talked about something personal, and I talked about this city a little bit by way of describing a park, and I go to other parks. I've done a couple of shows in Hants Park, a big park by the Central Public Library here, and a couple of other parks. Arizona's car-free neighborhood nears opening, and it should say Phoenix. Cul-de-sac Tempe bans personal cars in exchange for access to scooters, bike facilities, and free transit. Is that enough to reduce car ownership in autocentric Arizona? Yeah. Autocentric Arizona is correct. This is a country, this is a state, a couple, a mile and a half from here, as the crow flies, there's a place called the Goldwater Institute, which I don't imagine, that suggests that you ever patronize or visit. But people like this have been very successful in this country. They're people not dissimilar to the Transhumanist Party, people who try to strip away public goods and build up private wealth at the expense of many, many deaths. And the biggest body count of that all, by far, is industries like this, who are killing the planet, because eventually there will be no humans left on this planet because of their actions. We don't know when that will happen. Is that 30 years from now? Possibly in your lifespan? Is that 130 years from now? It's probably less than 130 years from now. It's probably within your children's lifespan. And so this is a little bit of a kind of bullshit article, only because this is kind of almost a lifestyle feature in the estimation of many Marxists, I would imagine. But I'm going to read it nevertheless. The community calling itself the first car-free neighborhood built from scratch in the U.S. is close to opening in Tempe, Arizona. And if you're not from Phoenix, Tempe is a neighboring city within Maricopa County. Like Scottsdale or Mesa or Tempe, those are kind of the big four, I guess. These are all within Maricopa County. They're all within a short trip. People commute 3 times that far regularly somewhere else. So it's in the same county. It's a big county, but they're all really close. Tempe is the college town, ASU town. Once again, residents who move into cul-de-sac Tempe will not be able to park personal vehicles within the development. The community will still make ample use of cars, but in the form of ride shares via Lyft and car sharing via Envoy, community-based electric car sharing service and platform. So the Tempe, kind of a company town in a certain sense. It's a college town, and that college is technically public, but it's run more like a company town in certain respects. Tempe, I'm not going to get off on that, but this company town has a own company preferred car sharing service. So they're not encouraging people to build mass transit in doing this. This is often the way with greenwashing. The greenwasher will see the thing that is what the socialist would do in any given situation, and will stop short of doing that, and will generally also be building something that doesn't stop the capitalist who's killing the planet, but builds another industry. Oh, here, this is better. We're building another industry. Oh, yeah? So now there's 2 polluters instead of 1. Tesla, a textbook example of this. The neighborhood will feature bird e-scooters, ample bike parking, and free transit rides. Okay, so we're moving in the right direction with the scooters and transit rides, making it easier to get around for short trips. Will residents give up their cars altogether, or will they find the need to maintain vehicles to reach essential daily destinations and get to the rest of not so exactly pedestrian-friendly Arizona? Yeah. Tempe is a place where there are jobs, but there's a certain number of jobs in Tempe. It's not that big compared to the rest of the county, so people would have to leave. That's the main thing, right? The times when I've had a straight job, the happiest times there were perhaps times when I was able to walk to work. Um, that's a little bit reductive, but the point is you can do that, right? You can try to do that. Try to work from home if you can. Try to have zero commute if you can't. One of those two things might be possible for you. And I include riding a bicycle 8 miles round trip a day as zero um, zero commute. That's just getting some exercise. That's engaging in a sporting activity. um, um, but yeah, almost all the jobs that I've had are bike too, and I highly recommend that. And I recommend you get an e-bike. I'll show off my new e-bike because it's right here. So if you're a regular watcher of this show, you might have seen that. I can't see. You might have seen that I used to have a electric tricycle that I rode around on. Well, the axle cracked on it, and not being a tricycle repairman, I didn't want to spend the $50 to $125 on the missing element and fix it without the certainty that I would be able to fix it. So what I did was I sewed it back together. I attached the wheel that had broken off to the frame, so it's no longer attached to the gear mechanism. So it has one pedal instead of two. It still has two pedals, but yeah. And so it rides a little funny. It's off center, and it's a dumb vehicle now. So I took the electric motor that was off of it, that was on it, and transplanted the whole wheel and fork and handlebar element, that whole element, onto another bicycle. And then it was just simply a matter of lifting the electric elements outside of their housing and putting them in another, which is actually an e-bike bag. It's a little bigger than a regular bag on the handlebars. So now I have this e-bike that I like. I took it on the bus for the first time. I just rebuilt it recently. I took it on the bus for the first time 2 days ago, going to a meeting to talk about comic books, and also went to the art museum. And I took it on the bus after that, and for a long time, over a bumpy road. And it didn't jostle the bag too much or damage the electric elements, which I was definitely afraid of. When I realized we were going across Central on the bus, which is an area that's been under construction for umpteen years, in Center City, Phoenix, I was not happy because I thought that my bag would get bounced off the bike or the electric elements would get damaged. I'm even a little paranoid that this bike, which is front heavy now because of this big wheel, could just fly off the front. Which, if that happened with an ordinary bicycle, I'd be like, oh, I can fix that in 5 minutes. But if this thing flies off, then I'm out, and then I no longer have an electric bicycle because the elements would be destroyed. And what I need to do is get a better housing for that, but I didn't want to spend money on that either. So it's in a cloth bag, and then the other elements are inside of a slightly harder cloth bag inside of that. So yeah, that's my e-bike.